Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Invinity Energy Systems. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you are interested in meeting with Invinity Energy Systems, please click on the Schedule Meetings tab found in the platform navigation bar. You'll be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Larry Zulch, Chief Executive Officer of Invinity Energy Systems, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol IESVF and on the AIM market under the symbol IES. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Matt. It's very good to be with you, and thank you everyone for joining me today on a nice overcast day in San Francisco. I'm pleased to tell you about Invinity Energy Systems. We have a very simple value proposition, 3 main points, and we'll go over those. Renewable energy requires energy storage. The incumbent technology, lithium-ion batteries, will not meet all the future energy storage needs, which leaves a large opportunity for an alternative, and we're that proven alternative. So let me see if I can demonstrate these 3 things. Let's start with the energy storage imperative. The use of renewable energy marks a historic shift. Up till now, we've been using heat sources for energy: wood, coal, petroleum. They all make heat. Then they make electricity if needed. Now we're switching to something that makes electricity first. And that is a fundamental shift. Renewables, whether it's solar or wind, they're making electricity. And that electricity is only available when it's made without energy storage. And so as we switch from these historic carbon generating sources to renewable energy, we're seeing grid instability. We've seen it in California and Texas and various places around the world. And the reason is because if the sun's not shining, wind's not blowing, what do? You change electricity into chemical energy and change it back into electricity when you need it. That's the definition of a battery, and that's what we make. This is an enormous market that's emerging because every time you put in renewable energy, you need to have that energy storage to go along with it, or it's not reliable, it's not available when you need it. And that means that some of the estimates are just mind-blowing on how much energy storage is required coming up. But what energy storage? What are we going to use? It's obvious that there's an enormous amount of energy storage that's being supplied by lithium-ion batteries right now. We have them in our cell phones. We have them in our cars. We have them all over the place. They're not the perfect technology for stationary energy storage. Sometimes I think of it a little bit like lithium, the same as an engine in a Corvette. Very, very powerful. Very energy dense or powerful for its size. But can you imagine putting a Corvette engine in a semi? You clearly would be able to make it work, but it's not the perfect technology for it. It gets even more ridiculous if you think of a large cargo ship with the hold full of Corvette engines. It may sound absurd, but in many respects, that's what's going on with lithium-ion right now. Lithium-ion batteries are a fantastic energy-dense product when that matters, when you want to put something in your pocket that works all day, even a watch, cars, et cetera, et cetera. But as soon as you want to hook it up to the grid, you're taking literally millions of little cells and causing them to all work together. And there are issues. Any one of them catches fire, the whole thing can go through what they call thermal runaway. It's a problem. And so there is a need for something that likes being worked hard, like a big diesel engine. The harder it works, the happier it is. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But there isn't going to be one size fits all solution. There's going to be a number of different alternative requirements for energy storage. Some of it's really short duration. You know, a little momentary hiccup in the grid, you need energy storage to just kick in for a second or multiple seconds, sometimes at fractions of a second. You need, if you're switching from one energy source to another, something that fills that gap. But then you also need energy storage that meets the instability that occurs from renewable energy during the day. Sun goes down, still need electricity. Every day you need electricity from energy storage if you're reliant on solar and wind, every single day. So that daily use is a real important part of the market. But what happens when it's really overcast for day after day after day and the winds died and you need energy storage? You need longer duration energy storage as well. So each of these has different technologies and requirements. The one that we're focused on is the one that's working every single day, because we think that's the most important area, and we build technology that is useful for putting onto the grid in that circumstance. And the technology we use is called a vanadium flow battery. Now, every battery is in effect the same concept. Take electricity, make it into chemical energy where there is a charge between two different substances. And that charge then can be turned back into electricity, or it can get charged. It's very simple. Lithium batteries have a liquid electrolyte in them. Yes, there's some solid state ones coming along, but they're not there yet. So every one that you know of has got liquid electrolyte in it. And that liquid electrolyte stores energy in contrast to another material. That ion exchange goes back and forth. We're exactly the same. We store energy. Our batteries store energy in liquid. One liquid is positively charged, one is negatively charged, and they're separated by a membrane. The actual materials storing the energy is called vanadium. Element 23, it's very common. It's more common in the Earth's crust than copper or chromium. It's just mainly used to strengthen steel. And it's used for a few other things as well. But it has the unique characteristic of being able to be in different states of mixing with oxygen. Just like hydrogen, mix it with oxygen, you have water. Vanadium comes in multiple states. And so those two states represent a charge, and then that charge can be stimulated across a membrane or used to extract energy back and forth. A flow battery flows the electrolyte material past the membrane. That keeps it fresh all the time, and that allows the charge to occur for long periods of time, because as you're flowing it past the membrane, it means you can have very large tanks full of energy. Don't have to have separate individual cells with the liquid electrolyte in them like lithium batteries. You have large tanks. Means it's big and heavy. You're not going to see it in the car. You're not going to see it in your pocket. But when you're using it for stationary storage, sitting next to a large field of solar cells, field of solar array, or next to wind turbines, or just connected straight to the grid, container-sized batteries can make a lot of sense. You need it in very, very large scale. And I want to note, vanadium is 80% produced out of the circular economy, alongside steel production, using spent catalysts that are removing sulfur from oil, that kind of thing. Shell and AMG have a large plant that they've proposed in Saudi Arabia to work with spent catalysts there. So there's an example of using post-industrial waste. That's occurring in the United States right now with a company called US Vanadium. These are all ways that we can bring vanadium out of the circular economy and help change to our renewable energy future. Vanadium flow batteries have been around for a while. We're not the only people who make them, but we have the most experience in vanadium flow batteries. We are a company that was founded out of two pioneers in vanadium flow batteries right in 2020. And we have more individual battery units than all the other companies. In fact, by the end of the first 6 months of this year, we will have more than all other flow batteries have ever installed. So we have the largest flow battery in the world. Let me say this: the largest flow battery in the UK. We're installing the largest one in Canada, the largest one in Australia, the largest one in the United States. There are some very large flow batteries in China right now because they've identified that as a critical area for them to put in their investment. The good news is our technology is still ahead, and we are committed to keeping it that way. So we have an enormous possibility in front of us, and we have a lot of hardworking people putting these flow batteries all over. And in the lower picture there, you can see the largest flow battery in the United Kingdom connected up straight to the national grid. It's actually on a national grid substation. Each of those boxes there is the size of a shipping container, a 20-foot shipping container. So we really have an enormous opportunity in front of us to put batteries wherever they need it. It's a global market. Our technology is mainly created out of Vancouver, British Columbia, the center of electrochemical expertise in North America. We manufacture the cell stacks, the area with the membranes in it that have the energy interchange between the flow and the energy. We manufacture those in Vancouver. We also manufacture them in the United Kingdom, in Scotland. And then we get the bulk parts of the system, the metalwork and the tanks and the pumps. Right now, we're sourcing those out of China. And of course, we're looking at alternatives to all of those things to be supported by the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act in the US, and the bipartisan infrastructure law. Both of those are major opportunities. We have such a significant business just in the United States alone, but it is a global business, and there are global interests in energy storage, because the truth is the switch to renewables is occurring worldwide. And that is something that we are, and that means energy storage and lithium batteries, again, are not going to do everything. So here's an example of one of our systems that's actually still in the midst of being installed, the largest flow battery in Canada, in Chapis Lake. And this is taking energy from a very large solar array and making it available and more reliable for overnight use. So this is a system that we're putting in. And again, you can see that it's still under construction, but all the components are sitting there in place, and it'll meet the need in Alberta, in Canada. This is 38 of our VS3 flow batteries. Each flow battery has 6 individual flow battery units in it. So, this is a scale and a proven technology, and something that we're seeing is quite viable for this particular use. It's being proven every day, and companies are making money with it, and that's important. So, covering our strategy for success, because we're a public company, our interest is in growing to meet the billions of dollars of energy storage requirements that will be met by a relatively small number of large companies. And we intend to be one of those large companies with our superior technology. So we are going to capitalize on what we've already seen. We're seeing unprecedented interest in our systems, in our battery systems. We are working on a next generation product. So I mentioned that there are 6 units there in each of our VS3 batteries. Well, a very large wind turbine manufacturer in Europe realized that they couldn't sell more wind turbines without energy storage. And we've announced who it is. It's Siemens Gamesa. So Siemens Gamesa is one of the major players in offshore wind turbines in particular, but in wind turbines. They realize they need to put energy storage with their wind turbines. Lithium batteries get beat up by wind turbines. The constant cycling back and forth, the heavy use, they're not perfectly fit for that purpose. So the Siemens Gamesa looked around and said, there are many different technologies. Let's see if we can figure out which is the right one. They purchased a number of batteries, including one from one of our predecessor companies that is the same technology that we're providing now. And they said, this works, but it needs to be larger scale and less expensive. That started us on a multi-year joint development project to build what we codenamed Mistral. Mistral is the next generation product, and it'll be announced. The first pilot project will be announced later this year, and we'll have first customer ship next year of Mistral. Mistral is designed to meet gigawatt hour project needs. So it really can start taking advantage of the vast requirements for energy storage. And that's going to put us in a whole different ballgame. We have been getting government support for what we're doing because governments identify the same issues that I'm talking about. So in the United States, we've had the Department of Energy is putting money in, of course, but also the CEC, the California Energy Commission, is funding long duration energy storage because they're concerned, as they must be, that the shift to renewables is going to cause grid instability without adequate energy storage. And they're funding the largest flow battery in the United States, one that we're putting in jointly with Indian Energy, and that one will be coming online this year as well. So there's a large amount of support. We just announced, by the way, the UK government has given £11 million toward a battery system, one of the largest batteries ever manufactured in the UK, because we'll be building that in the UK. So all of these things, our strategy is take advantage of the government requirements, take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law, and get the U.S. At the forefront, as it is, of energy storage and the switch to renewable energy. And so then when you look at it from the perspective of the investment opportunity, and that's what we hope you would consider, we're looking at an area of vast potential. We're already generating revenue. Our deals are positive gross margin. So we're no longer in that mode of losing money on every single project we make. We're making money on those projects. Not enough yet, as you would see in our results, but Mistral is designed to be lower cost per unit energy stored, and larger scale. And so we have said that we intend to be profitable in the year 2025. So that's coming up. And we see our way clearly to being able to do that once we have Mistral out on the market and generating the profits and revenue we expect. So those are some of the reasons why it makes sense to pick an alternate to lithium, and who's the leader in that. There are other technologies. Most of them are not particularly proven, and happy to talk about them in the Q&A to the extent that we can. But what we will say is we feel very confident that our product is the one that is the furthest along in the sort of non-lithium market, as we say. So enormous opportunity, leader in our space, in that non-lithium space, and focused on aligning with the push toward renewable energy that we see. So what I will end with is how we view what we provide best, something that is more reliable, higher throughput, safer, higher performance, longer lifetime. Our batteries don't wear out. They just keep working. Greater flexibility. Very few batteries are able to do what we can do, which is respond very, very quickly to short-term requirements, and then also store hours and hours worth of energy in the same system with no modification. Able to get up by putting in bigger tanks to longer duration. And everything we do is fully recyclable. So I will turn it over to look at some questions that have been submitted, and I invite you to submit questions if you wish. And let me go to a few that I'm seeing here. One question has come in: who are your target clients? Well, there's actually a variety of markets for what we're doing. One is the commercial industrial space. As companies put solar panels on the roof of their warehouses or factories, they want to be able to self-consume energy. They want to be able to use time shift energy from when it's produced and when they need it, and they also want some resilience. So that's one market segment. But speaking of resilience, we also have a lot of interest in microgrids. We're putting in the system in California as part of a microgrid that allows it to be independent of the energy framework or the grid, basically independent of the grid when needed. For example, they're near an area that can be subject to cutoffs because of fire. Well, they'll keep going because they have a microgrid. And then, of course, utility requirements. Large utilities are increasingly identifying the need for energy storage as the amount of renewables that come on, and that requirement is met at very, very large scale. And that's where Mistral, the codename Mistral product, is going to be particularly effective. So I'm asked about color around our IP portfolio. A very good question. The fundamental patents for vanadium flow batteries have expired, which is good. We have developed 70 different patents for the application of vanadium flow batteries, mainly in the coordination of multiple units. You know, as soon as you have multiple units working together, they always get small little differences between them. And so we have quite a bit of knowledge and IP about how to balance it out so that there's a consistent source. At the end of the day, every user of these products wants to look at it as one big battery, even though it's actually made up of many smaller units. Not the millions of lithium ion batteries, but tens or hundreds of our units. So that's one area of IP. Another area is in the electrochemical efficiency. I'm fond of saying that it's very easy to make a vanadium flow battery, and it is. Many have proven that. It's very difficult to make a good one where the electrolyte doesn't leak. Sounds simple. It's not. We're very good at that. Where the electrochemistry is very efficient, so that the round trip of electricity in to electricity out is as high percentage as possible. Not as high as lithium ion batteries, but very high nonetheless, up in the 70% range. Depending on where you measure it, and there's a lot of trickiness that sometimes is employed around that. So I caution you. A little caution is warranted around anybody talking about round trip efficiency. And so those are areas. And then in manufacturing, we have a lot of trade secrets as well. So that's another form of IP that's important. The way that we put together our cell stacks is critical. What we use as materials in them is also something that's entirely proprietary. Let's see, about providing revenue or unit ship guidance. I have to refer you to the analysts. They are saying a significant uptick in revenue for this year, and it doesn't seem unwarranted. We've heard numbers in excess of 20 million pounds, because as a UK listed company, that's how we report it, and that doesn't make us nervous. But I'm not providing any ability to provide much forward guidance. Now, I got a question about COVID and whether it affected the business. It was a painful process for us because, of course, we had supply dislocations. We anticipated delivering some projects much sooner than we ended up delivering them. Each one of our systems has computing in it, and we were having trouble getting the chips for that. Computing, of course, because you're monitoring all kinds of different components in it. There are sensors and there's controls for the pumps and that kind of thing. And that is, by the way, another area of our IP. So it definitely affected things and gave us some challenges. But I'm happy to say that we've worked through them right now. So we're very, very pleased with that. So I think that gives me a sense of the questions that have been asked. If there are any more, you're welcome to put it up. But otherwise, I'm going to tell you thank you for your attention today. greatly appreciate your interest in Invinity Energy Systems, and we look forward to answering more questions. I'm going to go back to the slide that has the way to learn more on it. Don't hesitate to contact us, ir@invinity.com. And www.invinity.com. I did see another question come in. Challenges accessing a supply of vanadium. There's a lot of vanadium in the world, as I mentioned. That said, we're going to need a lot of vanadium to meet our requirements. And I was just at the Vanatech meeting, which is the vanadium producers meeting, and was told by a number of producers, you tell us what you need and we'll find ways to deliver it. But there is a gap there. It is an area of challenge and opportunity. Vanadium, as I mentioned, is 80% of it's coming out of some kind of industrial process. 20% is primary mined, mainly in South Africa and Brazil, although there's some work being done in Australia as well. And even in the US, there's a primary mine that may be coming online. Getting that vanadium is a tractable, solvable problem, but it is an issue that we do pay attention to and will continue to do so. So it's of interest to us, and we're going to be as savvy as we can be in developing those sources of supply. We're not going to be supplying it ourselves. We're looking entirely to others to provide it. So again, thank you very much for your time today. Greatly appreciate your interest.